The movie musical, a genre nearly as old as cinema itself, with deep roots in everything from Broadway to opera to the Greek chorus and beyond, it's a natural expression of the fundamental human impulse to pair storytelling with song. So it seems only natural that cinema, with its limitless narrative potential, would be saturated with musicals. And it certainly used to be. But today, it seems like musicals are fewer, farther between, and often of, shall we say, middling quality.
I never needed anybody in my life.
Where are those happy days? They seem so hard to find.
Mine is the way of the Lord.
Don't get cocky.
So what happened? Before we get into it, let me make some concessions. First of all, you and I are going to have differing opinions about certain films and performances, and that's okay. And second, I recognize that in comparing newer things to older things, there's a tendency to fall prey to survivorship bias. For example, when I tell you that 90% of the musicals in the Criterion collection and 92% of the musicals in AFI's Top 25 musicals are from before the year 2000, we should remember that older musicals have survived certain processes that newer musicals haven't had a chance to. But still, it's hard to look at this, which is from a film that both audiences and critics love.
Crazy as they may seem.
Also me, I loved that film. And then to look at this.
Rain and Marble.
And not feel that something has been lost. Why? While I couldn't possibly answer this question definitively, I want to focus on one tiny slice of the answer. Something that happened in 1997 which would change music, and by extension the movie musical, forever. I am, of course, talking about Auto-Tune. You want to know something wild? The guy who invented Auto-Tune, Dr. Andy Hildebrand, based the software on an algorithm he developed for subsurface mapping of oil drilling sites. I'm not going to pretend to know how those two things are related, but anyway, it's true. In 1997, Antares Audio Technology released Auto-Tune. Then came Cher's Believe, then came T-Pain, and then it sort of snuck its way into everything. To understand just how big a game changer Auto-Tune was for the music industry, we first need to understand just how powerful and flexible this technology is. Let me show you. This is Auto-Tune Pro. I have it open on a vocal track that my friend Ashley was kind enough to let me use for demonstration. Let's hear her sing with the effect turned off.
And I'm tired of listening, trying to play the game.
That is what a really great singer sounds like without digital pitch correction. Now let's turn it on and use a very extreme setting.
And I'm tired of listening, trying to play the game.
That's the T-Pain effect, or hard tuning. The software is pulling the pitch center to an exact frequency as fast as it can in real time. But if we turn down the retune speed,
and I'm tired of listening, trying to play the game,
it sounds more natural while still correcting the pitch center. Auto-Tune also has variable settings for different keys and scales, for changing vocal timbre, for rehumanizing an altered voice, and even a setting for how it handles natural vibrato. And Auto-Tune isn't the only pitch correction software out there. This is Melodyne. Rather than working in real time, Melodyne captures audio and renders it as a visual contour that you can tweak manually. You can pitch correct individual notes, or parts of notes. You can transpose notes. You can correct for timing. You can even alter the width of vibrato, or correct for pitch drift. As the years go by, there are more and more plugins out there that can do what Auto-Tune and Melodyne can do, and they're constantly becoming more sophisticated. All in all, this technology makes possible 3 different applications. First, the T-Pain effect, very popular in pop, hip-hop, and rap.
Left foot up, right foot slide.
Second, it can take a great vocal from a great singer and give it a sort of glossy finish, make it hyper-perfect, if you will.
center of attention, you know you can get whatever you want from me.
This practice is so common that you hear it in literally 99% of recorded songs today, at least in pop-adjacent genres. You even hear it in live shows, arena tours, musical competition TV shows. It's everywhere. And third, pitch correction can make a less experienced, untrained singer seem more proficient than they actually are. To a point. This technology is powerful, but it has its limits, which leads us back to the Hollywood musical, and I'll bet you can guess where this is going.
It used to be so nice, it used to be so good.
Every day, like the one before.
This I swear by the stars.
Now, let me be clear. Each of the actors whose voice you just heard is a phenomenally talented individual, and I don't mean to make fun of them. Emma Watson is a UN Goodwill Ambassador, for crying out loud, and she's done more for gender equality and sustainable fashion around the world than most of us could ever dream to. Russell Crowe, on top of the, Oscars he's won, has a sincere, genuine following in his music career. It's just that certain styles of music require more rigorous training than others. And I'm talking about years of training, not just the pre-production period for a movie. Some people have voices trained for musical theater, others for pop, others for rock. We all sound great in the shower, and we all sound great singing lullabies to our kids. I believe everyone's voice is beautiful in its own way, and I applaud everyone who shares it with the world. I just think using auto-tune to square peg round hole someone into a role they haven't trained for is a bit like using CGI to put someone with my level of physical fitness into the Olympics. I try to love my body as it is, but I recognize it ain't ready for that. So, Hollywood has this weird habit of casting an actor who's not trained for musical theater in a musical, and then using auto-tune to try to fix it all in post, so that they can use their star power to sell tickets. And it's unfair to everyone involved. It's unfair to the audience, it's unfair to the filmmaker, and especially the actor. Good producers and good casting directors should have a vested interest in helping their actors look great and play to their strengths, not throwing them under the bus so they can make a quick buck. Besides, the whole thing is just so bafflingly unnecessary. A much better approach is to overdub the actor with a more trained singer, like they did with Lauren Allred and Rebecca Ferguson in The Greatest Showman. Fun fact, Rebecca Ferguson graduated from Adolf Frederick's School of Music, and she trained rigorously for this role so she could match Lauren Allred's vocal performance.
I would listen to her intonations and the way that she would breathe and use her voice, so that when I sang, because I sang every take with the playback, it would be a collaboration of her voice and my acting, basically.
Now, other problems with The Greatest Showman aside, I love this. It works really well. It gets the best of both worlds, it helps everyone play to their strengths, and honestly, it's not that different from when an actor collaborates with a body double for stunts or fight scenes. But for some reason, Hollywood doesn't go for the overdubbing thing much. Go figure.
Just singing in the rain.
Or you could just cast an actor who's really good at musical theater. They're not hard to find. Go buy a ticket for a Broadway show or a West End show or any number of universities or regional theaters. There are a ton of wonderful triple threats out there. For every Gerard Butler or Pierce Brosnan who's distractingly out of place in a musical, there's a Leslie Odom Jr. or a Samantha Barks just waiting to take our breath away. What's captivating about classic musicals is that the spectacle is rooted not so much in technology, but in the strength of human performance. The performers of musicals of yesteryear, they were on another level, and the sheer awe of it sort of cancels out the surrealism of people bursting into synchronized song and dance and props up our suspension of disbelief. But when there's a character on screen whose voice sounds fake, that's as distracting as a poorly rendered CGI character in an action scene, and it breaks the spell. There are some promising musicals coming out in 2021. I'm excited. I hope that the bigwigs in charge have done their casting properly, and I hope they use digital pitch correction only as a finishing touch, not a crutch, and I hope we can leave behind this weird, unintended consequence of autotune's invention. Speaking of unintended consequences of autotune, there's one more thing we need to talk about. We all know how soul-crushing it can be to live in a world of Photoshop, airbrushing, and filters. It can wreak absolute havoc on our self-esteem. Similarly, because of the prevalence of digital pitch correction, we live in a world dominated by unnatural singing voices, and that has an effect on how we see and hear ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is a problem anywhere near the scale or severity of body image, but ask the people you know how they feel about their singing voice, and I'll bet some of the most trained singers you know will say,
"But it sounds bad, and I sound horrible, and I can't sound good because I'm not good."
And I just think it would be good for everyone if we could hear the unedited voice a little more often. So what am I saying? We should boycott auto-tune?
This is death for auto-tune.
No, it's a useful tool. And if you want to Daft Punk the hell out of something, please go for it. I just think that when it's time to pitch correct a vocal, maybe dial back the retune speed a little bit. When it's time to edit a photo for Instagram, leave your waist alone. When you're picking a filter for your story, do it for fun, not to fix yourself, because you don't need fixing. And if you're passionate about singing, train, practice, because when it's time to sing, it's not time to hide. It's time to just be. Thanks for watching. I hope you click the like button and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. And I hope you have a really good week. See you next time.